Hello guys, gals and non-binary pals. This is an urgent request. Please don't click away from this video if you don't have a lot of time to watch it. Please just watch this first part. I'm going to explain very briefly what I would like you to do is to click on the link in the description, or if you see this video on Instagram where you can't click, I'm going to put a link in my bio which will lead you to the government consultation on offshore wind farming. And it's really imperative that we get as many possible responses to this. The impacts of offshore wind farming are really quite severe in terms of some of the environmental damage. I understand that offshore wind wind farming in general is quite a controversial topic, and I know that I don't have enough time to go into why this is important. I'm going to do a full video on this, but if you do nothing else from this point, please click on the link. If you see this on YouTube, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in the comment section a copy pastable version of a couple of answers to a couple of questions. If you have never responded to a government consultation before, that's okay. It's not as complicated as it sounds. You do not have to answer every single question. You only have to answer a couple of questions, and the two questions that I think are the most important are the ones that I'm going to put links in the description or in my bio or underneath this video. You're going to see a copy pastable version, and then you can go off and you can change that to words that are more personally fitting for you. So I realise that for somebody like myself, who is very much pro green energy and renewable energy and against using fossil fuels and against the extraction of more fossil fuels, it might come as a bit of a surprise to you to hear that I am against wind farming. I'm not on principle against wind farms. What I am against is offshore wind farms, and specifically the N4 offshore wind farm, which is off the coast of Lewis. Now, the N4 is approximately just under 4 miles off of the coast, about 6 kilometres off of the coast of the west coast of Lewis. It is an area that has dark skies, and this is going to be polluted by light pollution from these turbines. They will have either orange or red lights on them for the safety of aircraft. That will diminish our access to dark skies, which are a right for all of us to be able to access dark sky spaces, and light pollution is really serious in terms of how it affects various species as well for migration. We know that wind turbines are a risk for our seabirds. In fact, the Berwick Bank consultation when that was objected to, it was the Scottish Seabird Centre who objected to that on the basis of how it will affect some of our population of gannets. We also have gannets in Lewis, and some of the islands that this will be near are some of the largest colonies aside from the Bass Rock. And gannets are globally, we have one of the largest populations of gannets in the world, which I didn't know of. We also have the effect on the seabed, so the construction of this will go on for several years. There will be 24/7 activity, both onshore and offshore, for the infrastructure that is required to put this in place. That will disturb all of our wildlife and also local residents. There are cultural implications to this in terms of how much it will disturb some of our communities, and these are rural communities, and most of the rural communities do not know the scale of this or the scope of what is planned to happen. We also, of course, have cetacean migratory routes. Some of the waters off the coast of Lewis are some of the best places in Scotland, and in fact in UK waters at all, to be able to see various different species of cetaceans, and they use those routes as feeding grounds and as migratory routes. The level of noise pollution that these will create is quite concerning in terms of how that will affect some of our larger marine mammals, but also how it will affect all life on the seabed. When they're building these, it's going to really disturb some of the areas, and these are places where we have native seagrasses, and we're looking to see whether or not we have native oysters. And we have some of the only cold water corals in the world off the coast of Scotland as well. I am deeply concerned about how these will affect the seabed, how it will affect all marine animals, whether that is marine mammals or other species of marine life. We've got breeding grounds out there for dogfish and catfish. We have our cat sharks. We have flapper skates. I know this because I collect examples of flapper skate eggs in order to put that data back into the Shark Trust. And we know that we have a lot of quite unique ecosystems here. So the actual proposal itself will be 60 turbines. They will be taller than the Eiffel Tower. and they will run all the way along the west coast of Lewis, which at present is a completely uninterrupted view of the North Atlantic. It is one of the best places to see the Northern Lights. If I can figure out how, I'm going to share some photographs of a view that will now be interrupted by these light pollution turbines, but where I have personally seen and taken photographs of the Northern Lights. It's also a place that a lot of people go and specifically to see wildlife and to see these natural untouched landscapes. Another of my concerns is that in order to put these in place, we will need a lot of infrastructure on land. That will involve disturbing peatland. To put in the substations, there will be 2 substations. One will be in Stornoway and one will be in Barvis, and that again will take a lot of construction, and that will go on for several years up until the point that these are put in place. And the other thing is that it will not reduce the bills for anyone who's impacted by this in the community. This will not bring any benefit in terms of the electricity that is being produced by these are not going to bring down the bills for islanders or indeed for anyone in Scotland. Now, you might have heard the recent Berwick Bank, which is on the east coast, that's out on the Forth, has just been passed through the Scottish Government. They have approved that. That will make 200 times the amount of electricity that Scotland needs. So in addition to already having a proposal going through that will produce twice as much of the electricity of our current electricity needs, I would like to remind you that we already produce 97% of our gross electricity needs through renewables in Scotland already. So we don't actually need this many wind turbines. Specifically, we do not need offshore wind turbines, which are the ones which are going to cause the most environmental damage. There are other ways that we can use in order to meet the rising demand for electricity. For a start, we could just reduce our consumption of things that take electricity, and that is a really massive ask for a lot of people, and I think that that's something that we all think, oh, wouldn't it be nice if we just did a little bit less? But it's really important that we all really take into account that one of the reasons that we continue to need so much electricity is these continued and upward trends in demand for electricity. So in future, if we use electricity in a much more conscious way, we will not need the electricity at this sort of upward trend that we are currently seeing. Secondly, if we already produce 97% of our electricity from renewables anyway, and then we are going to produce 200 times the amount from the Berwick Bank, if that is going to go ahead, which I also disagree with. I think there are better ways, there are on-land ways, there are much more localised projects rather than the scales of these ones that we are seeing. The one on Berwick Bank is going to be the largest of these constructions anywhere in the world. And to then propose to put an additional one in a place with such a rich marine life and cultural history and heritage as a place like Lewis, which has already suffered greatly from cultural suppression as well. And that's something that I don't have the right to speak about because it didn't happen to me personally, but definitely if you would like to look into the history of Scotland and into some of the things that have happened on the islands, I think it's really important that we take into account the cultural implications of projects like this. Now, I know that's been an awful lot of information. I've probably spoken very fast. I'm pretty stressed about the whole thing. We only have 24 hours left to make an objection. But I absolutely implore you, if you have watched this far, please put in an objection. Go onto the Scottish Government's consultation page. You can look down the list of consultations. I will put a link in the description. You do not have to answer every single question. Even if you only answer one question, I'm going to give you suggestions for what to answer, and I'm also going to link to some of the fantastic projects. There are 2 different projects at the moment that are putting in objections to that and have given guidance on how to do so. And you can look at their social media pages as well if you would like visualisations of what this would look like. I don't have the technological capacity to show you exactly what it's going to look like. I only have my descriptions of my photographs that you've seen on my page. All of those beautiful beaches that you see me cleaning and caring for will have wind turbines in rows just offshore. So if you care about marine life and you care about cultural history and you care about communities and you care about just rural kind of life and our agency in choosing what happens off of our shores, I I can't stress enough how passionate I am about this, and I know that I haven't come across well in this video, and I know this is very last minute, but please, if you have any capacity to do so, please answer even just one question on that consultation and say why you object, and specifically objecting to the N4 and for the specific reasons that I'm going to lay out below. And with all of the information, you can just hopefully click on one of those links and it will take you to a bit of guidance on how to fill out a consultation if you have not done so before. And thank you for your time, and thank you for listening to me. And I know this was a bit of a spiel, and it's been 10 minutes already and I haven't even told you most of what I feel about it. But yeah, I am open to healthy discussion about what we can do as alternatives, but this is not the place or time to enter into a debate about whether or not green energy is feasible. This isn't what that's about. This is very specifically about offshore wind and about why that is not the best option for us going forward. So thank you for your time. Please take care, and please, please, please respond to that consultation before the end of the day on Friday, 22nd of August 2025.